Hello and welcome to our podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Zoyo, also known as Zach Ireland. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man.
Are you excited to be here?
Yeah. We just recorded an episode for my podcast. Now I'm excited to sit on the other side. I'm so used to interviewing other people. Now it's finally all about me.
Yes, I forgot to introduce you to our viewers. Zach has been a friend of mine for many years. He is a successful actor based in China. He attended a lot of big projects. There are so many TV series, films, and shows which we can see on TV. He's an amazing person and really passionate actor. So what are you up to now? What are you working on at the moment?
That's so sweet. I want to say thank you for having me on the show, first of all. And you're making me blush. Like, that was very nice of you. So at the moment, I'm currently working on my own podcast as well, known as the Expat Chit Chat Show, which is available on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and rate us 5 stars. Just kidding. Don't mean to plug on your show. But also, at the moment, I have 2 shows airing on Chinese television. One that came out, it was Mi Guang Zi Lian, and I think it's in syndication at the moment, and another one called 如果可以讲爱, If I Could Love This Way. And that just released a couple days ago.
Can you tell us how did you start when you came to China?
So I have been working as an actor, studying acting, working somewhere within the field of acting for about the past 15 years almost. I started when I was 14. I wanted to study a language course, but Spanish was full, and so I got drafted into the drama course.
Oh.
And then within the next 2-3 years, I actually did my first professional project. And what I mean by that, it was a professional theater. I got a paycheck and all those sorts of things. And I did that in the States. And I struggled with it for a while, not knowing whether or not I wanted to do it professionally, because I was very worried about being able to make money and things like that. But then I got a very good scholarship to attend Nebraska Wesleyan University for acting and studied that. So then I was studying acting at Nebraska Wesleyan University, getting a BFA there. And then moving into my sophomore year, it was a requirement for us that we had to study a foreign language in order to graduate. And when my professor asked me what I wanted to study, I made this really simple, dumb joke of, I'm really busy. I just need something really easy. So I was thinking of just taking Chinese, just something easy like that. And then he went and he ran with it. He said, I really think you should do this. China's film industry is really growing.
Yes.
It has one of the largest economies in the world right now. This is something you should really think about. And I kind of sat there and I was like, I guess I could think about it. And then, I didn't really give him a solid yes, but then the following year, once I got my class registration, there it was, Mandarin Chinese. Then a year goes by, and I know that I want to study abroad, and the same professor asked me where I want to go.
And you came here?
I came here. I got a scholarship to study at Beijing Language and Cultural University. Studied Mandarin for about 6 months, and I did private tutoring on the side of one-on-one Mandarin courses. When I went back to university in the States, I decided that, so many people that I went to school with, they would go to New York or Chicago or LA, but the market's oversaturated. It's very much oversaturated. And at the time, the only foreigners, the only people who looked like me who were actors here, or who said that they were actors, were study abroad students or English teachers or anyone that they could get off the street. And they were getting very big roles because there was simply no one else to do this.
Yes.
And at that time, there were a few people slowly moving into the market as far as acting goes. They were maybe slightly trained, or they did community theater or something like that, but they didn't have the background like I did. And so I decided that in there, I said, well, if I have these years of experience in acting, I went to a really good school, I have this training, if I can learn Mandarin Chinese and learn it well, then I can use my ability, my knowledge as an actor to stand out, and then also to speak Chinese, and then I would have a cornerstone on that market.
Now, we all know an old story. Someone with big dreams comes to LA. They want to get into acting or screenwriting or whatever. They find a regular job to pay the bills, and in the meantime audition and try everything possible to get their first gig, which will hopefully make them famous. Some succeed, some don't. You've been from United States, the home of the Big Orange and Hollywood. I guess get this question asked quite often, but why China? Why not Hollywood? Considering that this is the home of the US film industry and the place where aspiring actors try to make their dreams come true.
So the main reason was because at the time, what I saw working in New York, LA, and Chicago was the only people who were able to really work well there are people who already had a market built up. And so I knew that being from a town of 200 people in Nebraska, I don't know anyone in LA or New York or Chicago. And I saw that there was a massive opening here in the market in China, that there weren't professional actors who spoke Chinese, or there were some people who spoke Chinese, but they didn't have this training. And if they did, they were at that time there were a lot of kung fu guys like who are really really great at stunt work and things like that, but they don't have a background in like Stanislavski and the method and all these things that we
Right.
know as actors. Very talented guys and good friends of mine, but they will also say the same thing that I say is our skill sets are very different. So I my original plan was to come here and sort of build up a resume, and then once I had a big enough resume, then focus on going back to the US because, and to this day, I know so many of the most talented actors, like amazingly talented people, but they're working at Starbucks. The market's full. The market is massively oversaturated. In LA, there are thousands and thousands of guys who look just like me and who are much better actors than me. And I know what I'm doing. I'm not saying that I don't, but here my competition is so less. And that was when I started out.
Do you think it also depends of luck if you're doing this kind of job in Hollywood?
It's luck, it's who you know, it's a lot of it is drive and dedication.
Right.
And you know, me coming here wasn't necessarily because I didn't think I couldn't make it in LA. It's because I didn't want to have such a struggling path to start out with.
Moving to the next question. My understanding that when it comes to contracts and signing up for projects, things are a bit more structured in the West. You have fixed pay per hour, you have a contract, you go through the casting, and it's quite hard to get your foot in the door to begin with. Here in China, at least what I can tell from my experience and what I have seen, things are a bit different. When it comes to pay, it's often up to you or your representative to negotiate it. A big role play connections in just how well you communicate in Chinese and how good your agent's connections are. As someone who worked on projects back in America as well as China, tell me if you agree and what other difference you noticed while working.
I can say between the two worlds, if we're going to say we have the US film market and we have the Chinese film market, when you're negotiating a contract, the people that you're negotiating a contract with, they are never going to give you something that you don't ask for. So when I first came to China, and what I mean by this,
You mean in China or in Hollywood?
in both,
In both.
in both, they're never going to give you something that you don't ask for. So, for example, when I started working in filming here in China, I really had no idea what to expect. And the first show I did, like, I got ripped off. I got ripped off so much. I made such a small amount of money compared to what other actors doing the same amount of work were doing at the time. I had just graduated university and I was just so happy to be working that I basically took the first contract that came to me. And you know that can definitely happen anywhere. But now that I have you know 7 almost 8 years of experience of living here in China
Yeah.
and but more importantly working as a professional actor here, now I know the questions to ask. I know that nothing is guaranteed. Like it seems like it would be guaranteed that you would be staying in a hotel room by yourself, that you wouldn't have a roommate. But
Yes.
I still know to this day to ask for that every single time. In the US, I think, again, I don't know because I haven't done massive film projects in the United States. I've done them for Chinese companies in the US, but not actually for US companies in the US.
Okay.
And so I think it is a bit more streamlined. From what I know of my friends, the agents are. I know in order to be an agent in California, from what I've heard, you have to have a degree in entertainment law.
Oh,
You
really?
have to. It is very professional. It is. There is so many things set up, and there's sort of like a bullet pointed list that
So
people
it's kind of
know.
structure.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's if your agent is worth their salt, you know, they're not going to let you sign a contract that is going to pay you pennies. They're not going to let you sign a contract that doesn't include like return tickets. Dates.
But is it much more easier to be in this industry if you have an agent? For example, I had a couple of agents before in China, and it's really easy to have a friend of yours who is Chinese and maybe he doesn't have any experience, maybe you can teach him. For example, I have a foreign friend who has a wife, Chinese wife, and actually she is his agent.
I would say it definitely depends on where you're starting at and where you are at currently. So when I first started here in China, in Beijing, I didn't know anyone. I saw a random poster for Fei Ni Mo Shu, a job hunting show.
Oh,
And a friend of mine suggested, "Oh, hey, you should apply for that because it's a big famous like television show.
okay.
Go get some experience, sort of things." So I went on this show. I knew literally nothing, but one of the people on that show, I met her, and then she introduced me to another talk show, and then they introduced me to another talk show, and from there I met an agent. So when I started out, because I really didn't know anything, in order to get my name, to get my face out there, and to get my foot into the door to these interviews, I really needed that agent.
I want to talk to you about actor guilds. They were an effort to eliminate exploitation of actors who were forced into very often oppressive contracts that would last years. These contracts include no restrictions to working hours and were often automatically renewed with no possibility for a performer to actually end them. What do you think of guilds? Are they necessary now? Are you a member of any of them?
You know, it's funny. I actually get asked this question a lot because that's something that actors in the United States are famous for is we have the Actors Guild. And one of the reasons why is because one of the first unions, if not the first union in the States, was for the Actors Guild. That was one of the first ones because these people were working like 22, 24 hours a day and they were making
Yeah.
pennies and they were being exploited.
Yeah.
And so they got together and they went on strike. They said, "We're not going to do this work unless, you know, you meet these demands. We have to be able to eat on set. Like we need a break like once an hour, like all these sorts of things." All of that being said, that's something I learned when I was getting my BFA in acting. Now, the question that I get asked a lot is, are you a member of a guild? What's it like actually being a member of a guild in 2019? I don't know because the majority of my film work, the vast majority of my film work has been done with Chinese crews. And so I do know in the United States or in the UK, if you're a member of one of these acting guilds, if you take non-union work, then you have to pay a certain number of the money that you're making in order to do these jobs. And it's generally looked down upon because basically in the United States, if you want to film if you want to film anything that anyone is going to watch, unless maybe like some random independent film, it's going to be part of a union. So literally any film that you have seen from the United States is going to be part of the guild or part of the union. And that's how they get all of these actors that we all know.
Even short movies?
Usually, yeah, most short independent films, yes.
Oh.
If like you film something in your backyard, no, they don't necessarily need to be part of that at all.
So do you
But
mean
literally every actor that you know, every single actor that you know is part of a union. If I was working in the States, I would be part of a union because of my my background and the stuff that I've done so far, because then it would be beneficial to me. When I was at university, it was recommended to me that you don't join a union until you've basically exploited all of your resources that you get without being in a union. Because there are paid jobs, there are paid commercials, there are paid stage work
Yes.
that only hires non-union people. But then there's sort of like a jump where if you want to build your career a bit better, or if you want to work in more professional projects or with bigger directors, then you need to be part of that union. Otherwise, they're not going to hire you.
Where do you think it's better to try and develop yourself as an actor these days?
A lot of people think, essentially, if you're a Westerner, if you're a foreigner, if you have a white face, you can come to China and it will be so easy for you to get on TV or to, maybe be an internet celebrity or things like that. And to a degree, it's true in the sense that it is easier than a Chinese person doing it. It's easier than it would be for maybe a Chinese American person to do this. Uh, White privilege in that regard absolutely exists. It definitely does. But it is a numbers game. And so now, because more and more people are seeing that the market here is doing really well, there's been a big boom of very talented actors from LA coming to work in China because they they don't realize that there are already good actors here, or they see that there is less competition, so they're coming here to try and compete with some of the what I would be considered as local talent in the sense that I've been
Yeah,
living here for a while. But all that means is you just need to focus more on yourself. You need to make yourself as best as you personally can possibly be. The thing is when it comes to acting, regardless of whether you're working in um, Cairo or you're working in Seoul or you're working in Beijing or you're working in LA, the only person you're truthfully competing with is yourself.
right.
The only person you need to be better than is who you were yesterday. You can't
Yes,
you can't keep thinking about all these people who may or may not be coming in to take your job
exactly.
because you have no control over that whatsoever.
Exactly.
And so now it is true that it is more difficult than it was a couple of years ago. Um, I actually like it.
We have talked about how to be an actor and show business. Of course, in order to be an actor, you have to have talent first of all. Some experience will never hurt, but you also should be lucky, as I see it. Because no matter how good your auditions are, sometimes you just have to find yourself in the right place at the right time. Nowadays, with all these services and websites, anyone can make a portfolio for themselves and try to get an agent. Sometimes casting calls go out to general public even, therefore there are more and more people you have to compete with for a role. So while the age of the internet certainly gives opportunities, it's also increased competition. How do you reckon? Is it hard to get into the industry now? Is it harder than it was before?
I think it's definitely harder than it was before, but I don't necessarily think that that is a bad thing. I think what that means is just in the same way that a lot of foreign actors complain that there are more foreigners coming into China to work here, I think that it's a good thing because it means that we're creating better art. We have more qualified people doing these jobs.
Yeah.
And also, as an actor, it means that I personally get to work with more qualified people, and I really like that. That's also because I am confident in myself. And also at the same time, I don't want to get a job because someone felt pity on me. I don't want to get a job because they didn't find a better person for the role. I want to get the job because I was the best fit for the role and I gave the best audition, or they knew that I would give the best performance at the end of the day. Because I need that as an actor in order to be fulfilled. Part of this comes from, and this is my advice to any actor. This is also my advice to basically anyone going in for an interview is I know so many people who are so nervous when they go into an interview, and I get butterflies as well, but you have to remember that everyone has a problem. The problem is you have the script writer who's been writing the script. There's been writing the script for 3, 4, 5 years, sometimes 10 years. And then you have the director who has read the script, and then you have the costumer who is designing costumes for this character.
Yes.
The problem is everyone else has everything lined up and everything is perfectly there. The problem is they haven't found the right person for this role. And a lot of people, they get so intimidated when they walk into the room because they're worried. They feel like, oh, everyone's waiting for them to fail. No, they're waiting for you to be fantastic. They're waiting for you to just blow them out of the water. Everyone wants to be the person who discovers Meryl Streep. Everyone wants the next person who walks into that audition room to just blow them out of the water and give the absolute best performance that they've ever seen. Because that means that they get to cast them in this role. And so, okay, yeah, maybe you might not be the right fit for it sometimes, but maybe there's another role that you are a good fit for. So you have to remember, everyone in that room is waiting for you to succeed. The only thing is you need to get out of your own way and do it. You need to allow it to happen, not let those nerves get in your way. You need to be the answer to their problem. You need to be the answer to their question. And with that, even though that there are, billions of people on the internet, you have to have enough confidence in yourself to say, okay, maybe someone else can also play this part, but I am going to do it, maybe not even the best way, but I'm going to do it in a unique way that no one else can. I'm going to do it like how Vlad does it.
That is amazing to talk with you, Zach.
I love
today.
talking with you too, man.
That was a really good podcast, and that was really a big honor for me.
No, it was an honor
to
for
have
me.
you as a guest.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
More than happy to come back anytime.
Yeah. So actually, our podcast is coming to the end for the day. And that was a really good topic to discuss. Thank you, Zach, for coming.
Make sure to smash that like button, rate us 5 stars, and you can listen to us wherever podcasts are available.